When one listener's burden becomes another's calling, the body of Christ went to work. Hi, I'm Rob West. Every now and then we get to see what happens when God's people respond to very real struggles in extraordinary ways. Rene in North Carolina joins us today to share how a simple phone call led to a powerful act of generosity. And then it's on to your phone calls at 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance Live, biblical wisdom for your financial journey. Okay, so a few months back, we heard from a widow in North Carolina who's raising her special needs grandchildren on a fixed income. She was carrying a heavy load, including mounting medical debt. That caller joins us now. Rene, we are so grateful you're back with us today. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you guys have been doing.
It is our privilege, and I want you to take us back to that day you first called. What was life looking like at that moment, and what led you to pick up the phone?
Basically, it seemed like I was running out of options. There's a limited amount of money, and the kids were beginning to need more and more intervention, and I wasn't able to supply that, and
Yes.
that was disconcerting.
Yes.
Things were falling apart. You know, it was like when you have a military spouse that is deployed, everything can go wrong, and that's sort of where I was at.
Well, we were so grateful to get your call, and after you shared your story, a listener named Dwayne felt led to help. When you first heard that someone you had never met wanted to step in, take us into that. What went through your mind?
I'm still trying to process it. The first thing that I heard was that you were willing to help me find a counselor. That was mind-blowing. And then I get a message, I think it was within the next 48 hours, that there was this person that wanted to help. But why me? You know, there certainly had to be more people deserving than me, but there was this opportunity. And this had to have come from God, because it was just a fluke that it all was transpiring.
Yes.
And you don't turn him down. You don't turn God down.
That's right.
So that's where we went from there.
We absolutely believe this was God ordained, Rene. And for those that don't know, we partner with a ministry called Helping Hands. They walk through a careful process in each of these situations, reviewing documents and bills and conducting interviews. I know they met with you several times, Rene. They confirmed the need, and then the bills were paid directly. So when you learned your case had been approved, I want you to talk us through the impact that had on you, and then share the practical assistance that was provided.
Well, I still don't quite understand the entire process. I know that there is now a pool of funds that was available to me, and that they could help me with my mortgage. They could help me with food expenses. I had just started going to the food bank, but the kids' doctor's appointments were interrupting being able to go to the food bank. So as inflation was hitting and spiraling, getting help for groceries was amazing. Getting help for gas money as the gas prices were back up. It was just mind-boggling.
Oh, I can only imagine. Unfortunately, we have just about a minute left. What would you say, Rene, to Dwayne and the listeners that really prayed for you and supported you during this season?
To the listeners first, you can feel the prayers that go out. You can, it's palpable, and it doesn't just happen with the one incident. A series of things happened following this that I knew people were out there actively praying. I'm on cloud nine most days, and I'm able to smile and give genuine hugs and devote my brain to my girls. And that is a God's gift.
Yes, it is.
That's huge. To Dwayne, I am forever in your debt. I just found out your name last night, and I can now add it to my prayers for you. Your heart is huge. I don't know your situation, but God bless you. Just truly, God bless you, because you made a world of difference for me and my girls. A world of difference. And thank you.
Rene, incredible. Listen, Galatians 6:2, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. That's what we're doing together. It's a picture of the body of Christ. God bless you. You'll continue to be in our prayers, and thanks for joining us today. We'll be right back.
The opinions offered during this program represent the personal or professional opinions of the participants, given for informational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to replace advice from a financial, medical, legal, or other professional who understands your specific situation.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. Well, we're taking your calls and questions today at 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. We'd love to hear from you today, be able to tackle whatever you're thinking about in your financial life. Boy, what a treat to have Rene along with us today. Incredible story, isn't it? Let me just say thanks. You all are amazing. The listeners to this program, the listeners to Moody Radio, just how you want to be found faithful. Our goal each day on this program is to journey alongside you, to encourage you, to take you back into God's Word, to understand God's heart for your role in managing God's money. And what a privilege it is for us to be able to come alongside someone in need. Rene is a picture of that today, but there's countless others who are in need. And, I was in a writing workshop the other day. We're working on a new product for here at FaithFi. And one of the team members, the collaborators, asked the question to the team. He said, why do you think you have more than you need? And he wanted everybody to kind of respond. Let's talk about it. Why, if you have more than you need, why is that? And we all kind of gave our answers. And he said, I believe that the reason you have more than you need, if that's the case, is because somebody else has not enough, is because somebody else is in need. And that's the only reason that God entrusts to you more than you need today. And if that's the case, and I think it just captures the heart of the opportunity we have, is that, perhaps we have more than we need so we can bless someone else. It starts with our local church. It's somebody on your path, maybe in your neighborhood. Maybe it's somebody you meet unexpectedly. Maybe it's somebody in another part of the world. But the extent to which God has blessed you with more than you need, what an opportunity to participate in God's redemptive purposes in the world. And, hopefully each day on this program, we're able to encourage you as you think about what you have and be able to hold it loosely, give it generously. And we're so grateful for so many of you who responded to Rene's situation, those who are responding to meet other needs that exist, and those that are partnering with us here at FaithFi. We can't do this program each day without incredible supporters like so many of you who are our partners and supporters here at FaithFi. So just know that we're grateful and love serving you each day. Hey, we want to take your phone calls today. Call right now, 800-525-7000. We'd love to get any financial questions in the mix that you have today. We've got some lines open again. The number 800-525-7000. Let's dive into those questions. We're going to begin today in Erie, PA. Tom, go ahead.
Yes, I'm a trustee at our church. At a recent meeting, we discussed some excess funds that we have. We sold a second parsonage, so we put that into a CD. There's about $110,000 in that, and then we have about 2/3 of that again in a savings account. So we're just wondering, I know you mentioned an emergency fund for families of 3 to 6 months, but is that true for churches also? And what do you, we're thinking there are a lot of ministries out there, missionaries that could use funds. So we don't want a lot. We don't necessarily just want money sitting there getting interest. But what do you suggest as far as sort of emergency fund for a church?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a great article by ECFA, the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. If you just put in your search engine ECFA, church cash reserves, how much is enough? I think that might be a great article that you could circulate with your leadership team to really think and pray through this, because there's not a right or wrong answer. Why have a reserve? We definitely, I think, should have some reserve. The question is how much? And, the purpose of it is to ensure that operating our expenses are paid on time, that you're, of course, in compliance with mortgage covenants. I would actually see that as in addition to anything that you would have as a true reserve. It's beyond, your mortgage covenant. But, you're going to need funds available to replace an HVAC, or, you're going to need capital replacement reserves. And in some cases, folks are looking at building programs or opening a new site. So you've got to take all of this in. But what we know at the end of the day is that Scripture emphasizes the critical nature of reserves, and that applies to individuals. It applies to nations. It also applies, I believe, to churches. And the question is, how much is enough? And it's probably somewhere between, no reserves is inadequate, greater than 12 months is, I would call, excessive, and somewhere in the middle is going to depend on what your church's needs are. The idea is that we build up cash reserves in good times where the church is in a growth mode. That's a great opportunity to build it. Understand that it's a part of faithful administration of the church's resources. I would say build cash reserve increases into the budget, so there's intentionality there, and look at how you can build that up over time. And then I would segregate cash related to designated funds in addition to mortgage reserves. So you're looking at what that should be. And then I would establish really a policy for your church in terms of what your target is, so that you can focus on building that up, in those months where you have to draw it down. So I think at the end of the day, we really probably don't want more than a year's worth of reserves, because remember, the purpose of these funds that were given to your church is to get it into God's economy, into circulation in the kingdom. Yes, for you to operate your church, but for missions and for ministry and programming and all the things God has called you to do. So I don't think there's a case for any kind of investments. I think it really is just, how do we be a good steward of the cash that we have? Yes, getting a reasonable interest rate on that money with a very high degree of safety. But it really is truly for reserves, and then anything beyond that, based on the kind of the policy that you establish, whether that's the pastor with the finance committee or elders or deacons, however your church governance structure is set. Once that policy is in place, we know anything that's beyond that is really meant to be used for the ministry of the church. But let me stop there and get your thoughts.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we were thinking basically around 6 months. Is that something that we would want to have a separate item in our budget? Like, this is emergency fund only, and we only use it in that case.
Yes.
And could it be in like a high yield savings account?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You don't want to commingle the cash reserves with the operating account, so you want it in a separate bucket, if you will, covered by FDIC or NCUA insurance, maybe with your banking institution you're already with, and looking at getting a reasonable rate of return. Maybe they could use like a sweep account strategy to be able to, pull together, high yield rates for money market, but giving you that FDIC insurance. But ultimately, it starts by establishing a cash reserve policy and then building it into the budget to build it up over time, getting it in that separate account, and then establishing, a rationale for how and when it gets used. But I think this resource will be really helpful to you from ECFA. Thanks for your call today. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. We're taking your calls and questions today, 800-525-7000. Hey, one follow-up question on our previous caller, we were talking about reserves for churches. And yes, churches should have an emergency reserve just like individuals. ECFA not only has the article that I mentioned that's a great resource that anybody who's interested on maybe a church finance committee can certainly check out. Church cash reserves, how much is enough? But it looks like they put together, I hadn't seen this until just now, and more of an expanded guide. Again, it's ECFA, Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, and it's called 9 Essentials of Church Reserves for Ministries. 9 Essentials of Cash Reserves for Ministries. And it's a part of their Nonprofit Essentials series. It's a free PDF download. One more time, 9 Essentials of Cash Reserves for Ministries. If you just search for that, you'll find it readily available on the web. And it will take you through really kind of the cash reserve philosophy, how to make a plan for it, thinking about your accounting method, accounts for restricted gifts, prioritizing cash reserve needs, looking at your policy. It's even going to give you kind of a cash reserves worksheet to even develop your own plan. So this is a great tool, and I think could walk any church or finance committee through a philosophy of cash reserves if you don't already have one. All right, we've got lines open today. We're taking your calls and questions, 800-525-7000. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Michael, go ahead.
Hello, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. I have a grandson who was killed in a car accident a couple of months ago. He had no will. Thank you. He had no will. And my daughter was declared administrator of his estate, even though it's pretty small, Yeah. But she is gone. He had a checking debit account, and someone got into that and removed $4,000. So it obviously had to be someone, I guess, that had his account number plus a PIN number. My daughter went to the bank, and they said they couldn't do anything about it. Have to talk to the police. They couldn't access their surveillance camera, tape, or anything. I talked to my manager in my bank, and he said that the bank is responsible because the money was given to them in good faith that they would take care of that. So what is her recourse?
Wow. Well, first of all, I am so sorry for your loss. That is just so devastating. The fact that the bank said they can't help doesn't mean the matter is closed. So since his mom was appointed the administrator of the estate, she has the authority to obtain account records and investigate what happened. And essentially, the bank needs to provide detailed transaction history. That's what I'd push as a next step for. And as the administrator, she should be able to request statements showing or records showing ATM withdrawals, debit card purchases, electronic transfers, ACH payments, checks, or other withdrawals. She has now the authority to ask for that. And if the records show unauthorized activity after death, she's going to want to escalate the matter within the bank, file a written formal complaint with the bank, consult a probate or estate attorney, and then even file a police report. Because if the records show the money was spent or transferred, before death by the grandson himself, obviously recovery may not be possible. But if it was following or done fraudulently, and you can, ascertain that, then, obviously they have a process for fraudulent withdrawals, and that she should have full authority to be able to kind of force the records that would uncover that.
Can you tell me again quickly down through that? I just wrote down a file, read a report, but what else can she do? You said at the bank.
Yeah. So let's just kind of walk through this. First, contact the bank immediately. She wants to request account statements covering the months before and after his death. She's going to want a transaction history that shows all activity, withdrawals, transfers, debit card purchases, ATM withdrawals, any linked accounts. So account statements before and after death, transaction history. That's what she needs from the bank, because she's trying to determine, step 2, when did the money disappear? Was it withdrawn before death, shortly after death, or over a longer period of time. That timeline can help identify whether the transactions were authorized or not. And then if there are transactions that the family doesn't recognize, or certainly if it occurred after death and it was by someone other than the administrator, that was assigned, the administrator of the estate assigned by the court, then, obviously the administrator would notify the bank and ask about their fraud and dispute procedures. They all have them. And use the court-appointed authority as administrator to obtain those records to be able to figure out what happened here. And then I would consult with an estate attorney and probably as a next step, file a police report if she's able to determine it was taken in a fraudulent manner. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. One more question. If it was taken in a fraudulent manner, was that a crime?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that could be, okay, good. There was another question on the tip of my tongue now. What about the police becoming involved? The bank does that, or does she, if it's fraudulent?
No, she would do that. Yeah, once she gets the records and determines when it was taken out, and if she can determine, it's some way that it was not the grandson taking it out himself, then she would go to the local police station and file a police report. But she's going to need the evidence of the theft or the fraud to be able to share with the police at that time.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh,
all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, stay on the line. We'll talk a bit more off the air, Michael. I'd love to be helpful to you here. Folks, we're taking your calls and questions today. We've got some great ones coming up, but I've got a few lines open. So if you have a question you'd like to be a part of the program, call right now. A team is standing by, 800-525-7000. Again, that's 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. Hey, Faith and Finance is listener supported. If you love the program, I'd love to invite you to become a Faith Fi partner. Partners support us at $35 a month or $400 a year. And as a way of saying thanks and equipping you to be a faithful steward, we'll send you all of our resources as they're produced. So partners get 4 issues each year of our magazine, Faithful Steward, along with a ministry update. So you can celebrate with us all the incredible things God is doing. We send you each new study and devotional as they come out. Our field guides are mailed to your door. You get pro access to the Faith Fi app. That's all available for Faith Fi partners. We're still looking for dozens more to join us between now and the end of June as we head toward our June 30 fiscal year end. So you can help us close out the year strong with your gift to Faith Fi today. Just go to faithfi.com/give. That's faithfi.com/give. All right, we've got some lines open today. If you have a question, call right now, 800-525-7000. Let's go to Iowa. Daniel, go ahead.
Yes. I turned 64 in April, and I've been inundated with all kinds of messages everywhere pertaining to information about signing up for Medicaid or Medicare, when I turn 65, and that if I don't do this, I'm going to be penalized and, for life and so forth and so on. I'm 50% disabled through the military, and I get my medical taken care of through the VA, and I'm actually looking at getting that increased. But I'm wondering, what say ye pertaining to signing up for that at 65 with my circumstances?
It's a great question. And I would just say first, thank you for your service. The key thing to understand here, Daniel, is that VA health benefits and Medicare are separate systems. So having a 50% VA disability rating doesn't automatically enroll you in Medicare or eliminate the need to make a Medicare decision. Are you currently covered through the VA only, or do you also have employer coverage?
Only the VA.
Okay. And so that's your current status. And then are you receiving Social Security benefits right now?
No, I am working.
Okay. And when do you plan on taking that?
I really don't know. I hadn't even, I part of the reason why I'm calling is I want some good counsel.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So, since you're already relying solely on VA healthcare and you're not receiving Social Security, you'll need to actively make that Medicare decision when you turn 65. The biggest concern with relying only on the VA is that VA coverage doesn't generally replace Medicare for care received outside the VA program. So Part A, most people qualify for premium-free Part A, and so enrolling in Part A is a straightforward decision. The bigger question is Part B. Many veterans hesitate because of the monthly premium, but Part B gives you access to health care outside the VA system. So if you need non-VA care, or you travel frequently, or you move, or you just want additional flexibility, it can be valuable. There's risk also in declining Part B, because if you decline Part B and decide later that you want it, you're going to have a late enrollment penalty unless you qualified for a special enrollment period, but you probably wouldn't, because the VA coverage by itself does not create the special enrollment. You would have to have active employer coverage, which you do not. And so I think you really want to decide whether you want all your healthcare options tied to the VA system, or whether you want a second door open through Medicare. And if you did, then you'd want to go ahead and take that now so you don't get it later with penalties.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think if you're satisfied with receiving all of your care through the VA, great. If you would like the option to see non-VA doctors and hospitals if needs arise, then I think that's going to clarify the decision for you pretty quick. And if you think you want that option, then I'd go ahead and take it, in that enrollment window when you turn 65. So thanks again for your call today, sir. If we can help further along the way, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's go to St. Louis. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. West. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I have a question. Okay, I have a dental bill of $5,000, and that was in 2024. Now, I lost my job, and I was unable to continue to pay on it, to pay it off. But I was paying on it, and I paid it down to $1,300. And I was never late. It was always on time, and the only balance is $1,300. So now in 2026, now they're trying to collect it and get it paid off. But the catch here is that they want $5,000 again. Now, is it true that all I put into it in 24, is it no longer good, or does it no longer apply? Because now they want $5,000, and I owed only $1,300.
Yeah, it's a good question. So a few thoughts. Your payment history matters. So if you consistently paid down the debt from $5,000 to $1,300 before losing your job, that's evidence of a good faith effort. And, many creditors, dentists, and collection agencies would rather work with someone who has a history of paying than someone who ignores the debt. So I'd ask for a detailed accounting. I'd ask for the original balance, the payments received, the interest charged, late fees assessed, collection costs, because if the balance truly went from $1,300 back up to $5,000, I would want to know exactly what happened and why. And then you can, thirdly, negotiate. So if you're unemployed and you can document hardship, you could ask for the late fees to be waived, the interest to be reduced or forgiven. You could ask for a settlement amount, a new payment plan. Legally, the contract usually controls here. So if the fees and interest were authorized under the agreement, you may technically owe them, but that doesn't mean the creditor won't negotiate. But really the starting point for you, Stephanie, is through that detailed accounting to figure out why in the world it went from $1,300 back to $5,000. And then we can go from there and start negotiating if, in fact, what was done was not in error and was legitimate.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for your call today. We appreciate you being on the program. Lord bless you. You'll get through this. I know it can be overwhelming at times, but just stay on it. Make sure you request all those details. Let's figure out what happened, and I'm confident they'll work with you. The key is going to be getting into that budget and seeing if you can come up with a payment plan. Let's say you negotiate it back down, to the 1,300 and you're willing to make, 6 on-time payments or something like that. I mean, you're going to want to be pretty clear as to what you have the capacity to do. Then you're going to want to get it in writing, and then you're going to want to do what you say you're going to do and make sure that at the end they show it on your credit report as paid in full. So hopefully that helps. Call it back if I can help further. Well, we're going to head to another break here, and when we come back, we'll have our final segment. We'll get to a few more questions. We do have some room for a few additional questions as well. So if you've got a question and you haven't called yet, I've got room for maybe 1 or 2 more that are not currently holding. Here's the number, 800-525-7000. Here at Faith and Finance, we understand God owns it all. You and I, well, we're stewards or managers. Money, it's a tool to accomplish God's purposes, to enjoy, to provide, to give, to invest. Let's do that in a way that honors the Lord so we can be found faithful. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. Here in our final segment, we'll get to as many calls as we can. Let's go to Florida. Rosa Iris, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I live in a 55 and older community. When I first purchased this home, I did put my twins on the paperwork, so the deed and all of that. So if something happens to me, would they still need to do probate, which I've been hearing a lot about and don't really understand much of, or me putting their names, on the title and all of that, would that suffice?
Yeah. So you put them on the deed with rights of survivorship, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So they would own the house if anything happened to me, so that way they could sell it if they wanted to, or live there if they wanted to. Because they're 45 years old, so they can come into the community at that age as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they're on there with joint with rights of survivorship, actually on the deed and not just on the mortgage, then the property would pass directly to the surviving owners without going through probate. The challenge with what you did was that you have essentially, at the time you added them to the deed and they became a part owner of this property with right of survivorship on the deed, you essentially gifted the value of the home, whatever portion they own, to them. And now they're going to get it without it going through probate and inheritance, which means when they sell it, they're going to have to pay capital gains on your original purchase price. Whereas anybody who inherits a property through a will or a property that's in a trust, and if they're a beneficiary of the trust, they would get a step up in basis. So the capital gain would be based on the market value as of the date of death, rather than the market value of what you originally paid for it. So although they won't have to go through probate, they could end up owing a lot more in taxes because of the way this is structured. The way to avoid that is kind of the best of both worlds is a trust where you're the sole owner, the home is titled in the name of the trust, and then at your death, they're named as beneficiaries of the home, and then they get the step up in basis so that if they decide to sell it, essentially they wouldn't pay any taxes because, the market value would be essentially the same as what they sold it for if they don't hold on to it. Does that make sense?
That makes plenty of sense. And you said something that I did differently. I paid the house off when I bought it, so I didn't get a mortgage. There is no mortgage. It was paid off at the time of purchase. So my next question was about a trust also, which you just answered, which is wonderful. That was my next question.
Yeah, but just to make sure I'm clear, I did mention a mortgage in that, a lot of times when people call and say that somebody's on the paperwork, quote unquote, that can mean different things. It can mean they're on the deed, like your situation. It can mean they're on the mortgage, but not on the deed. So I was just clarifying, but in your case, they're on the deed. Now, what I will say, though, and maybe you understand this, and that's great, but just for clarity, given the fact that you bought it with cash and there was no mortgage, has no bearing on the fact that because they're listed on the deed as an owner and not going to receive it by way of inheritance through a will or a trust, it's still going to be the case that when they sell it, they're going to pay the capital gains based on your original purchase price, regardless of whether or not there's a mortgage.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then to protect myself or protect them, just put a trust in place.
Well, what would have to happen is you'd have to essentially go to a real estate attorney. They're going to have to quit claim deed back to you their interest in the property that they now have being listed on the deed so that you're the sole owner, and that's going to be a gift, and they may have to file a gift tax return, although it wouldn't be taxable. It would just come off of their lifetime exemption. Now you're the sole owner, then you create a revocable trust, put the house in the name of the trust, make them the beneficiaries, and now when you pass away, they get the home without probate, but they also get the step up in basis so they don't have to pay the capital gains based on your original purchase price.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. You've
Yep.
Good. Well, you've got a little work cut out for you, but it'll be worth it. Rosa Iris, thanks for calling today. If I can help further, don't hesitate to reach out. Lord bless you. Let's go to Ruth in Chicago. Go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Sure.
I received a notice right after my birthday, the last Saturday in April this year, that my safe deposit box containing a big bag of coins, gold coins, had been drilled. I did not receive any notice about the drilling. It was drilled a year ago and 2 weeks in 25. So I only got a form letter from Indianapolis, not from Oak Park Chase Bank where I put it. So I went to the Chase Bank, and they told me it would take a couple of weeks before they could bring it in. So I invited people from Jews for Jesus to come with me because I wanted to donate it. When they opened the box, I saw only 5 to 10% of the original coins were there. Those were donated. However, the majority of the coins were totally missing and not listed. So I'm not sure. I wrote to the main branch of Chase in New York, to the CEO. They called me a couple of times. They asked me to fill out a missing contents form, which I just had to kind of make up myself because they didn't have one. And now I found out they drilled everybody's boxes by May 1st of this year. So is it time for a class action suit, or what can be done?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it's a legal question. I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to give you legal advice. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear about what's going on here. If the bank had you complete a missing contents form, that's pretty significant because it suggests the bank recognizes there's a question about what happened to the contents of the box, not merely a dispute about unpaid rental fees. So I would continue, if it were me, and again, you're probably going to want to get legal advice. I can't advise you on that, and certainly not on a class action. But I would continue pursuing the bank's investigation. Ask for a copy of the missing contents claim, the bank's investigation process and timeline, any inventory made when the box was drilled, records showing who had custody of the contents after the box was opened, and then any chain of custody or audits that may exist as a part of the records on the handling of it from that point forward. And document everything. Create a timeline. When did the automatic payment stop? When was the box drilled? When was the notice received? When was the box opened? And gather any evidence of the coins. Do you have any appraisals or photos or insurance records or witnesses that saw the coins? And then you're going to want, if this is substantial and with a bag of gold coins, often it would be, I would certainly consult an attorney experienced in these kinds of claims because this is no longer a customer service issue. This is a loss of valuable precious metals. But don't assume the delay means you have no rights. The bank should be able to answer these questions, and it may require you to get, legal attorneys involved.
Okay. Thank you very much. And
all right.
May God continue to bless your ministry. God bless.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you for being on the program today. Lord bless you. Let's see, quickly to Florida. And Dwayne, how can I help you?
Hi, thanks for taking my call, Rob. I listen to your show all the time. You do a great job. My question relates to Social Security. I'm 68, and I plan to continue to work and until I'm at least 70, God willing. And my wife just turned 67, and she's pretty much a homemaker. And my question really goes to the order of taking, because she hasn't filed for her Social Security, and so the order and process of filing for Social Security and whether she should go ahead and file now.
Yeah, got it. So a couple of things here. She's going to be eligible for a spousal benefit based on your work record, but the timing matters. And so if her own benefit would, be very small, or she doesn't qualify because she doesn't have the 10 quarters of work history, or 40 quarters, 10 years, then she's going to want to take your spousal benefit. Now, here's one of the keys, though, is your wife can get 50% of yours, but only 50% of your full retirement age benefit, not the larger age 70 benefit. Now, if she's already 67, she's past her full retirement age, but she can't begin receiving the spousal benefit until you begin receiving your benefit. So you've got to walk through the door first, which then opens up the opportunity for her. If she is at least full retirement age, once you begin taking benefits, then she'll get 50% of your full retirement age benefit, not the increased benefit. But if you wait until 70, you're also going to require her to delay and not be able to claim unless she has her own retirement benefits that she could take right now.
She could take, we looked at what she would get now, and so she would get a small amount if she would have filed now, but It's, again, a small amount.
Yeah, got it. And so that's key. And so in terms of how to look at this, she could start her own Social Security benefit now, and then she won't be able to get the increased spousal benefit until you file for your benefit. But the benefit of you waiting is not only are you going to get a check about 24% higher for the rest of your life, but she's going to get a higher survivor benefit once you pass away if you predecease her. So I would say she takes hers now, switch to the spousal, and then ultimately perhaps get the survivor. I hope that helps, Dwayne. Thanks for your call. Faith and Finance Live is a partnership between Moody Radio and Faith 5. Big thanks to Josh, Tahira, Taylor, and Josh. We'll see you tomorrow.